I wanted to, and actually have been planning to for the last couple of weeks now, talking about the Annapolis, Maryland Peace Summit that is upcoming. It has just recently been scheduled. They had planned on it, talked about it, prepared for it, but never had a date set on it until just recently. And now it looks like it's going to be on the 27th of this month, which is a Tuesday. What is so interesting about this is that this is the first time in many years that all of the Arabs have come together and are willing to come together in the United States of America to come to the table along with Israel for a peace summit. This article from the Jerusalem Post, Annapolis Conference, will take place on Tuesday, November 27th. At last, one day, Army radio quoted an Israeli diplomatic source as saying Monday. According to the source, after the conference, Prime Minister Ehud Olmert is scheduled to stay in the U.S. for a series of meetings with high-ranking officials. This is actually unprecedented, and there's one behind it, none other than Javier Solana. This from Haaretz.com, Israeli-Palestinian peace deal possible by the end of 2008. This is quite a bold statement. Haaretz goes on to say, an Israeli-Palestinian peace agreement could be in place by the end of next year. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Javier Solana said Wednesday at a joint news conference with Foreign Minister Tzipi Livni in Jerusalem. Livni, for her part, agreed with Solana that the upcoming International Annapolis Peace Summit was an opportunity for the peace process to move forward. Solana met earlier with Olmert, who briefed him on preparations for the Annapolis meeting. This Javier Solana is believed by most to be the most powerful man in the world today. Oh, by the way, he is also head of the Western European Union. There are 10 nations that make up the Western European Union, of which he is chief. Sound familiar at all? Am I saying he's the Antichrist? Not necessarily. But it is interesting that he is behind the scenes working with the Jews, with the Arabs, to bring together, many believe he is the one who has orchestrated this peace summit taking place on the 27th. I believe that this Annapolis Peace Summit is another step towards the fulfillment of several specific prophecies in the Bible. We're told by the prophet of old, Daniel, that the Antichrist will accomplish a peace deal, probably with a peace summit, much like that which is going to take place in Annapolis, Maryland. And he will bring together in this peace deal the Jews and the Palestinians, so-called. The prophet Daniel in chapter 8, verse 25 said this, and I like the King James wording of this prophecy. He says, and through his policy, his being the Antichrist's foreign policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, speaking of the Christ, but he shall be broken without hand. Or in the original language, it has the meaning of without the hand from man. In other words, God is going to destroy him. So according to Daniel, under the banner of peace, he will set up this peace deal, then he will magnify himself, and destruction and desolation will come. The Antichrist will confirm a covenant with Israel for 7 years. This is according to Daniel 9:27. but will break it after 3.5 years, which is right at the midpoint of the 7-year tribulation. He will then set up his image in the Jewish temple. This according to Daniel 11:31, which we'll look at in a moment, and also Daniel 12:11. And he will force the world to worship him. Revelation 13, he will also force the world to take a mark without which no man will be able to buy or sell. We also know this as the mark of the beast. We also have this in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. The prophecy in Daniel 11:31 says, his armed forces, this is where I like the NIV better, his armed forces will rise up to desecrate the temple fortress and will abolish the daily sacrifice. In other words, the Antichrist bringing Jew and Arab together, Jew and Muslim together, will allow the Jews to rebuild their temple without disturbing the Dome of the Rock or the Mosque of Omar. And so next to the Dome of the Rock, at the original location, there will be a Jewish temple. And he will, halfway through the tribulation, set up his throne in the temple, and he will commit the abomination, some believe, sacrificing a pig and sprinkling the blood on the Holy of Holies, which would be an abomination, and it will cause desolation. That's what it means when Daniel says he will abolish the daily sacrifice. Then they will set up the abomination that causes desolation. Okay, when he commits this abomination that causes desolation, the elect, which is saved Israel, not the church, we'll talk about that in just a moment, the elect, aka saved Israel, will then flee from Israel for the last 3.5 years of the 7-year tribulation. The 7-year tribulation is a fulfillment of the 70th week of Daniel. 69 weeks heretofore have been fulfilled. Matthew's Gospel, chapter 24, verse 15, records for us what Jesus says about Daniel's prophecy, and he says that it will be fulfilled when they see the Antichrist committing the abomination of desolation in the rebuilt temple. In verse 16, the very next verse, he tells the disciples that those who are in Judea will flee to the mountains to a place, a specific place that God has already prepared for them so as to protect them from the desolation of the Antichrist. So Bible scholars for years have wondered, well, where is this place that is talked about, not just in Matthew's Gospel, in the Olivet Discourse, but also in the book of Revelation? Apparently, God is already preparing a place for Israel for the last half of the tribulation to protect them from the abomination of desolation. It is believed that this place is in modern-day Jordan. It is a rock city. It is called Petra, and it is the ancient city known as the Rock City, because it is a city carved out of, literally, rock, impenetrable rock. So in other words, Israel will find their salvation in the rock. Does that jar your memory at all? Jesus is the rock of our salvation. So they're going to flee to this prepared rock city, this place in modern-day Jordan, and apparently God will have it all ready for them.